What's good, everyone? Welcome back to the Mana Dorks podcast. I'm Mike.
And I'm Nick. Hey, Mike.
What?
So earlier when we were planning the show, you told me that we were going to talk about staple replacement. So I brought some supplies.
Oh my God.
These things? Has anyone ever actually used these?
I use them all the time.
Really?
For our audio listeners, Nick pulled out a swingline stapler and a staple remover, the alligator mouth clip thing. Yeah, I use these all the time. These are actually really good to separate key rings. You know, like keychain rings. They're so hard. You got to like wedge your fingernails in there.
See, when I pull staples out, I get my nails under there. And pull
that just like hurts to think of. There's a tool specifically for that.
I didn't have one until today.
Oh, he bought it specifically for the podcast.
No,
Thank you, Nick.
I stole it. Anyway,
welcome to the Mana Dorks podcast. On our show today, we'll be talking about some staple removers or staple replacements. We find that, well, at least I find that my deck is like half built for me.
Yeah.
With between lands and all of the staples that I feel like have to go into my deck, that we wanted to share with you guys some ideas, some cards that we play to kind of take the place of that, so your deck feels a little more individual, a little more unique.
Definitely.
Right. Cool. Well, before we go into that, we want to introduce a new segment. This segment, we're deciding on a name. We haven't really decided yet, but it's something we've wanted to do for a while. We're going to pick a random commander from EDH Rec. We're just going to hit the random commander button and have a discussion about it, see how we would build that deck, and kind of go from there. Do you have any ideas for a name?
Should we try to combine them somehow?
Well, they feel like they should go together, right? Commander, random.
Randomander.
Okay, everyone.
That's it.
Welcome to the Randomander segment of the Mana Dorks podcast. Let's go. I'm going to hit the random commander button and let's see what we get. We have, Karametra, God of Harvests. I'll read it out for you. It's 3, a green, and a white for a 6/7 legendary enchantment creature, God. It has indestructible and the devotion clause, which says, as long as your devotion to green and white is less than 7, Karametra isn't a creature. It also says, whenever you cast a creature spell, you may search your library for a forest or plains card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. This card was just reprinted in Commander Legends with the etched foil. Looks beautiful.
I love those.
Yeah, me too. And
I
they're
hope
so
they
cheap.
keep doing those.
Yeah, I think they will. They're going to keep doing it. We're getting off topic. So, Karametra, I used to play against a Karametra deck. And actually, Dan Glover, who was on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, used to have a Karametra deck, and it was just filled with creatures. It was just like dropping creatures left and right, and he could continue to do that because he had so much mana under him, because Karametra just lets him.
It's whenever you play a creature?
Whenever you cast a creature spell.
Cast a creature.
So your creatures can get countered, and it still doesn't matter. You still get that ramp from them. Yeah, it's literally putting like a rampant growth onto every creature spell that you cast.
Yeah.
For 5 mana to sit in the command zone.
Wow.
And with all those creatures coming in the battlefield, your devotion is going to inevitably be more than 7.
Right.
You know, so you're definitely going to be able to turn Karametra into a creature, and then by that point your board's just going to be flooded with creatures, and
I love those indestructible gods.
Oh yeah, there's nothing better than having either indestructible, hexproof, or something like regenerate on your commander.
Right.
Because it sucks to have to keep casting it from the command zone and worrying about it dying.
Right.
But with these legendaries, or these gods, that doesn't really happen.
Right.
So, Nick, can you think of any cards you'd put in this other than just basic green-white creatures?
Maybe.
Well, what are some of your favorite green-white creatures?
Green-white creatures?
Yeah, because
does it have to be a creature?
Well, we're looking for creature spells to get that ramp. It seems like that would be the goal
suppose.
here.
Well, I was thinking Beastmaster Ascension.
Oh, well, yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. And it's probably going to be a combat-based deck.
Right.
So Beastmaster Ascension,
I'd
definitely
probably drop Riz in there.
Riz the Redeemed to create some tokens?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, actually, no, because it's when you cast a
Yeah, that's
so
true.
That wouldn't work.
Yeah, the wording gets you there.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like Oh, and well, now I just lost it. This is actually a card we're going to talk about today, Craterhoof Behemoth, of course.
Yeah.
If you have all of these creatures in your deck, you drop the Craterhoof Behemoth and they all swing out for like 18s. Wow. So
ridiculous.
It's a very straightforward deck.
Yeah.
It seems like. I love it.
They gave us an easy one for the first time. Yeah.
Seriously. Well, thanks, EDH Rec. This was the Randomander, I guess, section of the Mana Dorks podcast.
I thought we were going to get a hard one. Like,
some
tap
random...
one, discard your library.
Yeah, I can't see that happening anytime soon.
So we have to figure out how to make it work.
And it'd be in like mono red too. Some crazy something like that. Yeah. Anyway, before we move into our main topic for the day, we want to let you guys know that on our Instagram, we are holding a giveaway for a Zendikar Rising bundle. It's all you have to do is like the post and tag 2 people in the comments, give us a follow, and you're automatically entered into the contest. We hope you win, but we only have one of them, so we can't give it to everyone. But one of you will get this free shipping sent right to your door, and good luck. Head over to our Instagram.
Unless they have a PO box.
True.
Then sent right to their box.
Sent to your person.
Sent to your official mailing address.
That's what we should have said.
Yeah.
Yes. So head on over to our Instagram, the Mana Dorks MTG, and like, comment, and follow for an entry.
Cool.
Great.
Cool.
Nick, let's move on. Would you like to introduce our main topic of the day?
Our main topic. So we already touched on it, staples. So we're picking staple cards from the Commander format that we can replace with other cards that either cost less money or mana wise. They might just work better, or they're another card that you could throw in and have kind of the same effect twice.
Definitely.
Two times chances to get it.
Yeah, since we're budget players, we just find that it's difficult to get all of these creatures. Like Craterhoof Behemoth is right now like $45 maybe, nuts. And I'm not paying $45 for one card,
I am.
You are?
No, I'm thinking about it.
Well, if it really connects the deck and makes it work, then it's worth it.
Yeah.
But sometimes if you just want that extra push that staple's going to give you and it's not worth the price tag, you're going to find some good stuff that we have in this.
But those are always the cards that you never draw into.
Yeah, seriously. I feel like there's some secret pocket in my deck where all my good cards hide.
And you always draw the same cards every time.
Yeah. Maybe I'm just not good at shuffling.
Probably. We should do an episode on shuffling.
Sure, sometime. That'd be really cool.
Cool.
Anyway, let's go right into it. What is the main staple of this format?
Soul Ring.
Yeah, definitely Soul Ring. Soul Ring, 1-drop artifact, taps for 2, ramps you right out of the gate. Everyone loves seeing that in their opening hand. You get your hand and it has a Soul Ring. Even if you have 1 or 2 lands in there, I might take that hand just because of the Soul Ring. So
chances are you wouldn't pull it out to replace it with something. But so there's some other things that kind of do the same sort of thing.
My first option is Sisay's Ring. Sisay's Ring is 4 colorless. It's an artifact and it taps to add 2 colorless mana. Does the same thing as Soul Ring, but it does cost you 3 more mana. So maybe you're working in a deck that is based off of artifact ramp and you just want some more. Soul Ring doesn't really have a huge price tag right now.
It's under $2 now, right?
Maybe, since it was in Commander Legends.
In Commander Legends.
But I also have, along the same lines, Urgolem's Eye. It's the same thing as Sisay's Ring, 4 colorless, and it taps to add 2 colorless. So, like we said before, these aren't necessarily better cards. They're not, well, some of these could be better cards, but not every card is going to be better than the staple, because they're a staple for a reason.
Right.
No one wants to take Soul Ring out of the deck, but if you're in a meta that it doesn't move as fast as most people, or you just want kind of an easier deck to pilot or a slower deck, then go with something like this. Nick, what do you got for a Soul Ring replacement?
So I found Ever-Flowing Chalice. It's a 0-drop with multi-kicker 2. So that's the one where you can kick it as many times as you want. Okay. Ever-Flowing Chalice enters the battlefield with a charge counter on it for each time it was kicked, and it says tap and add 1 to your mana pool for each charge counter on the chalice.
Nice.
So, I mean, if you're ramping, that'd be a pretty sweet card to put in there, because you can just, pay a bunch right at the beginning there and tap it for a bunch.
Definitely. Oh, it's a huge mana sink. If you're like let's say it's like turn 8 or 9 and you have no gas left in your hand and you draw into Everflowing Chalice, you have so much more mana going forward. I play this in my Joyra deck, but I put it in there just because it's a 0-drop artifact, and I can cast it for free to get a free card draw. So, anyway, great. So that's Sol Ring. Moving on, our next staple that we chose were both Lightning Grieves and Swiftfoot Boots. Lightning Grieves is a 2-drop artifact equipment, gives your creature haste and shroud, and it has a 0 equip cost. And Swiftfoot Boots is the same casting cost for 2, equipped for 1, but it gives haste and hexproof. So a little bit of a difference there. I came up with 2 for this, but what I was focusing on was the hexproof ability that it gave, because you can kind of get haste anywhere. Well, especially in red, you can get haste all over the place, but I didn't think that was the most important part, at least for me when I play Lightning Grieves and Swiftfoot Boots. The haste isn't the most important part.
Sometimes,
it's the protection.
Though,
oh,
it's
yeah.
Nice.
It definitely comes in handy.
Yeah.
But I chose 2 equipments that give hexproof. One of them is Mirror Shield. Mirror Shield is 2 colorless for an equipment with equip 2. It says equipped creature gets +0/+2 and has hexproof. And whenever a creature with Death Touch blocks or becomes blocked by this creature, destroy that creature.
That's pretty sick.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of like punishing someone for having Death Touch creatures. You know, it's like Death Touch on Death Touch, basically. But it also gives that that booty boost. Gives you +0/+2 on your creature to be able to block a little more. And like I said, it gives the hexproof. And for just 4 total mana, 2 to cast, 2 to equip, I think that's worth it.
Yeah.
Also, I chose Mask of Avacyn. It's 2 to cast, 3 to equip. Equipped creature gets +1/+2 and has hexproof. Straightforward, bumps up your creature just a little bit, but again, gives that hexproof. These are both super cheap cards. Mirror Shield came out in Theros Beyond Death, so it's still pretty recent. They're both uncommons, so I think that recently, Swiftfoot Boots and Lightning Grieves have been climbing in price. I mean, they were both reprinted recently, but they're going to start going back up again. So when they do keep going back up, look to these cards to save your wallet, basically. All right, Nick, next let's go to one big creature, Craterhoof Behemoth.
Craterhoof Behemoth.
Yeah. Want to read Craterhoof Behemoth first before you?
So it's 5 and 3 green for a beast, and it has haste, and it says, when it enters the battlefield, creatures you control gain trample and get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of creatures you control, and it's a 5/5.
A lot of text.
Yeah. It's worth it, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of cards are TLDR, but this one's worth it to read.
I find myself just being able to tell what a card does now by the art. And I'm like, thank God I don't have to read this card every time. Just memorize it. So anyway, what are you replacing it with?
So I was thinking, this one is a little bit different, but it still, gets big.
Yeah.
So is it Liege or Liege?
Yeah, Liege.
Liege of the Tangle. It's 6 and 2 green, it's an elemental, and it has trample. It says, whenever a Liege of the Tangle deals combat damage to a player, you may choose any number of target lands you control and put an awakening counter on each of them. Each of those lands is an 8/8 green elemental creature token, or creature for as long as it has an awakening counter on it, and it's still a land.
Cool.
So it's the same price as Craterhoof Behemoth.
Same mana cost?
Mana cost,
Yeah.
I don't know how expensive it is, but...
Well, it was reprinted in what, Double Masters? Yeah, so probably not too expensive right now.
So it's nice because Craterhoof Behemoth relies on you having a ton of creatures out, but this gives you a ton of creatures.
That's true.
You know what I mean? And
you can pick any number of lands?
Any number of lands.
That's awesome.
And it's anytime it deals combat damage to a player, so if you play a couple more lands, you can...
Nice.
Well, actually, they'll probably be dead by that point.
With your 8/8 lands.
Yeah.
But it does have trample as well with 8/8. That's going to be tough to block all of that.
Pretty sick.
I remember losing to this card. Do you remember when we lost to this card? Nick and I were playing a 3-player Commander game, and one friend was playing some mono green deck like Azusa or something and had a ton of lands on the battlefield, and then he drops Liege of the Tangle, and it gets back around to Nick's turn, and Nick does something like, I don't remember what card it was, but it said like destroy all non-land permanents.
Oh, yeah.
And our friend was just left with like 13 8/8s on the board, and we had nothing on our boards. I was like, why? Why would you cast that?
It was for the meme.
I wish we were recording that game.
Yeah, me too.
So very good card, and underrated, I'd say.
Definitely,
Just to
yeah.
give all your stuff 8/8s.
Right.
Yeah. All right, I'll read one for you. This is this was just recently printed in, I don't remember, Ravnica Allegiance or Guilds of Ravnica. It's End-Raise Forerunners. Again, we have an 8 cost. It's 5 and 3 green for a 7/7 boar with Vigilance, Trample, and Haste. When End-Raise Forerunners enters the battlefield, other creatures you control get +2/+2 and gain Vigilance and Trample until end of turn.
That's pretty sick.
Kind of similar to Craterhoof, where it bumps up the creatures and gives them Trample, but doesn't bump them up as much. But this comes in as a 7/7 Vigilance, Trample, Haste, and gives your creatures +2/+2 Vigilance and Trample. So at that point, you're at 8 mana. You've probably got 6 creatures on the battlefield, maybe more at that point, and you're probably just going to be able to swing in for the kill right there.
Right.
So Craterhoof Behemoth, I think, is... Well, it's going to... Like, anytime I drop that card, it wins me the game. But these cards could definitely do the same thing.
The further we go along in this list, I'm like, Craterhoof Behemoth may not even be worth it.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah,
I totally agree with you there.
$45.
Yeah, no thanks.
But
I pulled one in a Modern Masters pack, and that's the only reason I have it. Yeah, I would never go out and buy that. Yeah, it's in my Gitrog deck. It's just in Gitrog because it like wins the game. But I'm definitely considering cutting that because then it would lower the mana curve as well.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's keep going. Next, we're going to move on to Counterspell. We all know Counterspell, 2 and a blue, counter target spell. It's played all the time. You see those 2 islands sitting open across from you. Your opponent hasn't tapped those 2 islands, so you don't play anything. You just like wait until they counter someone else's spell. Let's talk about some other counterspells we have here. I have one, it's called Delay. Delay is 1 and a blue. It says counter target spell. If the spell is countered this way, remove it from the game with 3 time counters on it instead of putting it into its owner's graveyard. If it doesn't have suspend, it gains suspend. So what this does is basically exiles the card for everyone to see, and each turn it gets closer to coming back into play. So it's a free cast when it comes back in, but that's 3 turns around the whole table. Either someone else is going to pull a counter spell or a removal spell to get rid of that big threat that they were about to place, or the game's going to be over by that time in 3 turns. So I just think it's really cool to be able to delay someone's game plan in this case, and then they just see it sitting next to them with the time counters on it, and they're like, dang, I wish that was on the battlefield. Yeah. So yeah, I like this one a lot.
And it's only 2.
2, and one of them's colorless. Yeah. That's the thing.
That's awesome.
And it says you counter any spell. It's possible for it to come back on the battlefield, but sometimes it's hard to keep open 2 blue mana for a counter spell.
Right.
So I like having the colorless option.
If you have a colorless and a blue open, they're like, oh, he doesn't have a
right. No one's going to really expect it, or they're going to expect something really niche, like a negate, which is a non-creature spell or something like that.
Right.
So you're right. You're right about that. All right, Nick, what's next?
For counterspell?
Yes.
So we got Stubborn Denial. It's a 1-drop blue, and it says counter target non-creature spell unless its controller pays 1. And it has Ferocious. If you control a creature with power 4 or greater, counter that spell instead.
Cool. So some hoops to jump through on this one.
Yeah.
You have to have a creature with power 4 or greater, and it's only a non-creature spell. But it's 1 mana. It's only 1 blue to cast this. And if you're playing a deck that has a commander with just naturally power 4 or greater, this is just a free, or not a free, but a really cheap counter spell in your hand at all times.
Well, if your opponent taps out to play the spell, then it works anyway.
You're right. Yeah. So there's tons of ways to work around this. I think it should fit into any deck that has a blue commander with power and toughness, or power 4 or greater, because just 1 mana to counter a non-creature spell is sublime, to say the least.
Honorable mention.
Yeah.
Mana Drain's pretty sweet.
Well, yeah.
It's a little expensive.
Mana Drain's like $90.
Yeah, but...
And I would even consider Mana Drain a staple as well. Not necessarily in our super casual formats.
Yeah.
But moving up towards the 7-8 power level and like CEDH,
Yeah.
I would say they play it all the time.
Yeah.
Very good card though.
Great card.
And if it wasn't almost $100, I'd put it in all my blue
Every
decks.
decks, yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's keep going. Moving on, we're going to talk about some board wipes. The two most classic board wipes in the game are Damnation and Wrath of God. They do the same thing. Damnation is 2 and 2 black for sorcery, destroy all creatures that can't be regenerated. And Wrath of God is almost the same, but in white, 2 and 2 white, destroy all creatures that can't be regenerated. So we're looking at board wipes that deal with creatures.
Yep.
So, Nick, I know this is one of your favorite cards, so read this one for it.
All right, this one is Fumigate. It's 3 and 2 white for a sorcery. It says destroy all creatures, and you gain 1 life for each creature destroyed this way.
Nice.
I love having this card in my token deck because it's Riz to Redeem, so it's all about duplicating tokens. So if you have, 30 1/1s out on the battlefield and you Fumigate, you gain 30 life.
Yeah. And that's just from your board.
Yeah.
It's not even counting the 3 other players that you're
Right.
playing with, destroying all of their stuff as well.
I love it.
I remember so many games were sitting there, and I'm like, dang, I need to pull the right card. And Nick goes to me, Nick says, you need a Fumigate. So it comes up all the time in our games.
Even when he's not playing white.
Yeah, you think I have a Fumigate in my Get Rog deck?
Yeah.
So, and just for 1 more mana than Wrath of God.
Yeah.
Now, this doesn't say that they can't be regenerated, but I don't...
How often are people regenerating?
I never come
honestly?
across regeneration.
I think I've done it once and I did it wrong.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
So I love this card, printed in Kaladesh, and I think at this point it's probably like $1.
Yeah.
So Fumigate's really good, but we have another really good one. I'll read this one for us. This is a little more expensive than Damnation, but it's in Garrick's Wake. It's 7 and 2 black for a sorcery. Destroy all creatures you don't control and all planeswalkers you don't control. So I think those couple extra words on there are super important and make the mana cost worth it in that it's stuff you don't control. So your board stays. This could win you the game. This to me is almost like a Cyclonic Rift, but it destroys everything. It doesn't take away like enchantments or artifacts or anything like that, but it gets rid of everyone else's board except for yours.
Right.
So, and it hits planeswalkers.
Yeah.
How often do you see a board wipe that hits all planeswalkers?
Yeah.
Imagine playing against like a Super Friends deck, an Atraxa planeswalker deck, and you just drop this on the field and they lose everything they've worked so hard for. That's really hard to build back up from. And when you can afford 9 mana,
next turn you can just drop something big.
I don't think anyone's coming back from that.
Right.
So I love this card, and this card is like 50 cents.
Yeah.
Probably because of the mana cost. No one really wants to play it. But in Commander, at least the way we play, we get to turn 9.
Yeah.
A lot of the time. So.
Because we suck. No, I got one of these. Board wipes. Mm-hmm. So this one is probably one of the only cards in red that I like. Not really, but it's Apocalypse. It's 2 and 3 red. It's a sorcery and it says remove all permanents from the game, discard your hand. So this one holds a special place in my heart. Okay. I don't know why. Because I didn't know it existed until I built my, what's that deck?
Kalia? Oh, Kalia.
And I found it, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. So I put it in there. I do find it difficult sometimes to find 3 red because I'm not a big red guy. So when there is red in my deck, there's probably 10 lands, 10 mountains in the deck. But it does come in really handy.
Well, it just wipes the board.
It starts the game over, pretty much.
It's like the definition of a board wipe. You could literally just sweep everything off the table and start again.
And it's remove. So
it exiles everything.
And
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the second sentence on it?
Down here?
Yeah. No, not the flavor text. It says, can you just read it again? Oh, discard your hand.
Yeah.
So hopefully you've got nothing in your hand.
Yeah. Well, what did I do last time? Last time I played it, I did something new that I hadn't thought of before.
You floated all your mana.
I floated all my mana, but I can't remember why I did that.
Me neither. Anyway.
Maybe I didn't discard my hand. Maybe I cheated.
Well, who cares?
Yeah.
Let's keep going. Now, I mentioned this card earlier, Cyclonic Rift.
Yeah.
Cyclonic Rift, it's 1 and a blue for an instant return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. I think I don't have it in front of me. And then you can overload it for 7 to return all non-land permanents to their owner's hands, well, your opponent's hands. So it just gets rid of everything on your opponent's board, and basically it's a win condition. It lets you win the game from there because no one's really going to come back from that. I have a couple in here that are similar. They're definitely worse because nothing can really top Cyclonic Rift.
Right.
But one of my favorite blue board wipes, I guess, is Washout. Washout is 3 and a blue for a sorcery, and it says return all permanents of the color of your choice to their owner's hands. Now, you don't, at least I don't frequently see monocolor decks.
Yeah.
But when you do and you play this, like I was playing against that same friend that had that mono green deck, I named green and they just had to pick up everything on their board. It was unbelievable. And the fact that it gives you the chance to pick the color each time, it doesn't say return all green or red, whatever. You choose a color and you're going to hit a lot of stuff there, and lands are included.
Right.
So, and for only 4 mana, obviously you're going to pick a color that you're not playing. You know, you're not going to return all your blue stuff to your hand unless that's part of your game plan. But Washout for just 4 mana, I think, is a highly underplayed card. All right, let's move on.
I think this next one is, I think I would play this before I would play Cyclonic Rift.
Really? Read it for us.
So it's River's Rebuke, and it's 4 and 2 blue. It's a sorcery, and it says return all non-land permanents target player controls to their owner's hand.
Okay.
The reason I think that I would play this over Cyclonic Rift is because it costs 7
Yeah.
to do all, and this costs 6.
But it's only 1 player. Frequently we play 1v1.
Yeah.
You know, it's
so
just
I
you
guess,
and me and...
Yeah.
But...
Well, because we don't have any friends, so that's why I'm thinking this, but...
no, I understand though, because if you're feeling a little vindictive and you're like, I'm trying to get this 1 player dead, you're like, River's Rebuke on you, even though you only have 4 permanents, something like that. So I do agree. There's times when Cyclonic Rift is good and times when River's Rebuke is better.
The good thing about Cyclonic Rift is if there's one thing you want to get rid of, it's good for that.
Yeah, you can get rid of it for 2. You're right. That's true.
And this is cheaper too, isn't it?
Oh my gosh. This card's probably like 80 cents.
Yeah.
Again, all these prices, I don't have them in front of me. These are just off the top of my head. So feel free to comment below how wrong I am.
Yeah, pick on them a little bit.
I could use it.
But yeah, I love River's Rebuke.
Yeah, I do too. Printed in the Ixalan block. I love the idea of being able to target just 1 person.
Yeah, it's kind of, you're going to make a lot of enemies doing this.
Definitely, definitely. All right, let's move on. Our next card is Krosan Grip. Krosan Grip is 2 and green for an instant with split second, so it cuts right through the stack. It doesn't, nobody has a chance to respond to it or anything, and it says destroy target artifact or enchantment. You can't really beat that because split second is such a broken ability that you can't respond to it in any way.
Well, luckily they don't use it too much.
Yeah, I think it was only printed in 1 block, and it's only on like handful of cards.
Yeah.
So you don't encounter it that much, but Krosan Grip has become a staple in the format. So I have 2 cards here that are able to replace that. My first one is one of my favorite cards. It's probably my only pet card in green. Well, my second. I have 2 pet cards. Ranging Raptors we talked about before is one of them, but the other one is Return to Nature. Return to Nature is 1 and a green for an instant, and it says choose 1. Destroy target artifact, destroy target enchantment, or exile target card from a graveyard. So having all 3 modes available to me on 1 2-drop instant is just more gas in my hand than like a Naturalize or even the Krosan Grip. Like, yeah, it's slower than Krosan Grip because it has to go on the stack and people can respond to it. But I think having that extra option to exile a card from a graveyard, especially now with graveyard recursion and all that strategy becoming more and more popular, I think having an option to get rid of something in someone's graveyard is really important.
Definitely.
So I love Return to Nature, and I bought a Japanese pack of War of the Spark just in hopes that I would pull a Return to Nature in Japanese, and I did.
That's awesome.
So I put it right in Gitrog. It's so cool.
Well, it's a common, right?
Yeah. All right, Nick, what's next?
We have Nature's Claim. It's a 1-drop green instant, and it says destroy target artifact or enchantment. Its controller gains 4 life. I play this in a lot of my green decks.
Yeah, it's so efficient.
Yeah. So what if they gain 4 life?
Right. In a 4-player format, 4 life is really not that much.
Right.
It's a 10th of the life total, but it's just a little bit more than a lightning bolt.
Yeah.
So I could bolt you right after that and get you down. It's basically like you gained 1 life off of that. So to have the cheap mana cost of this and at instant speed, I think is definitely worth the 4 life that your opponent gains.
Definitely.
I know that this card does get played a lot, especially in CEDH because of the mana efficiency, but I don't see it popping up that often in casual play, so definitely take a look at that card.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep going. Birds of Paradise is our next one. Birds of Paradise is 1 green for a 0/1 flyer, and it says tap to add 1 mana of any color. It's a Mana Dork. Yeah, I think it was one of the first Mana Dorks ever printed, and it's just gotten reprinted all over the years, but it's still sitting at like $8 right now. So I don't really want to pay $8 for a Mana Dork. I'll pay any amount of money for the Mana Dorks for us, but not for just one little bird.
Any amount of money?
I don't know about any. Yeah, and it's on tape, so.
Yeah.
Oops. Anyway. Birds of Paradise could be replaced by a couple of cards that I have here, one of them being Utopia Tree. I just learned about this card recently, and it's super cool. It's 1 and a green for a 0/2 plant, and it says tap, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. So not as fast as Birds of Paradise. You probably won't get it out on turn 1 unless you have some crazy ramp. But it does the same thing, except it doesn't have flying. So it's like some of this, some of that. You can't get everything you want, especially with budget cards. I think this card's like $1.50 or something like that. Not too expensive. And to fix your mana right there is totally worth it. Nick, read our next card.
We have Alloy Mirror. It's a 3-drop artifact creature. It says add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool, and it's a 2/2.
Great. Basically the same thing. Yeah, seriously, it's the fact that it's colorless to cast though makes it better. If I'm running a 3-color deck and I'm missing one of my colors, I want to have a Mana Dork that I can cast at any point, to then fix me. Whereas if I'm short on green, I can't play the Utopia Tree.
Right. Because
I don't have the green to play it. But in this case, if I'm short on green, I play this for 3 colorless, and then I have access to the green.
Definitely.
And it's got a little more power than the Utopia Tree. It's a 2/2, so it can end up actually dealing some damage for you.
Read the flavor text. With or without witnesses, the suns continued their prismatic dance.
Oh my gosh, Magic flavor text is literally poetry.
Yeah.
I don't know who's writing this, but kudos to you. Seriously.
If you're listening, Wizards, make a Magic poetry book.
Yeah.
With just flavor text from different cards.
That's such a good idea.
Yeah.
We should have a poetry night. Let's do an open mic night.
Okay. We'll set it up back here.
I love it.
Let's do it.
I love that idea. Awesome. Cool, let's keep going. I have one more for the Birds of Paradise replacement. It's Elysian Cariadid. It's 1 and a green for a 1/1 plant, and it taps to add 1 mana of any color. If you control a creature with power 4 or greater, add 2 mana of any one color to your mana pool instead.
Yep.
This one's great because in green, you're definitely going to have
4 or greater power.
Yeah. So it fixes you right at the beginning. You drop this on turn 2, and you have 3 mana. Then eventually, you're able to drop that 4 power creature, taps to add even more. I think this card, I don't think it should have been a common. This is a common, yeah.
I guess, because it is kind of a better dork.
Well, just look at, it's a 1/1, but look at Utopia Tree. Utopia Tree just taps to add 1 mana of any color. They have the same mana cost, being 1 and a green, but
it's better.
Elysian Cariadid can inevitably tap for 2.
Right.
So it just goes to show that cards are always going to get better,
Right.
And more cards being printed means that the cards that were great, like Utopia Trees are rare also.
Yeah.
So the cards that were great and deserve that rare spot get downshifted like crazy.
This card, though, is one of the first ones that you get when you play Arena.
Oh, yeah.
So when we were, the first couple matches you do are the color, what are they called?
Color challenges?
Color challenges. Yeah. And your opponent has like 4/4 flyers, like 5 of them, and you're just here with your 1/1
Mana
dorks. So
I love it. Well,
yeah.
I would put this in. I have a Grothama deck. This is in my Grothama deck because Grothama is a 5-drop 10/8, so
helps out a little bit.
Definitely helps out.
Cool.
Great. This is our last one. This is the last one of the day. Rhystic Study. I've never played a Rhystic Study before.
Really?
I don't think so. I'm maybe in one of my proxy decks, but I've never owned a real Rhystic Study.
I have it in my proxy decks.
Yeah.
I don't have it for
proxies
real.
are great. Anyone listening that's concerned about playing proxies, talk to your group before you play. Make sure they're okay with it. But we have proxies in some of our decks.
We have proxy knights.
Yeah, I'm not trying to pay $400, $500, $1,000 for a deck that might not work.
Yeah.
I'm not going to drop all that money when I can just print it out and sleeve it up for free.
And as long as you're not selling them, like it's not illegal.
And you're not competing either.
Right.
It's just we're playing at the kitchen
Just
table.
Casual
Who cares?
kitchen table magic.
Yeah, so proxies are good. You have our seal of approval. Proxies. So anyway, I'd like to read this first one that replaces Rhystic Study. Well, first, let me tell you what Rhystic Study is for those of you that might not know. It's an enchantment for 2 and a blue, and whenever an opponent draws a card, wow, now I don't have the exact, I don't remember how it exactly goes, but whenever an opponent draws a card, you draw a card unless they pay 1.
Yep.
Basically, it's the classic question.
Do you pay the 1 for Rhystic Study?
You gonna pay the 1? You gonna pay the 1 for that? It's all over the place. So, replace Rhystic Study in some of your decks so that you don't have to say that all the time.
Right.
And you could replace it with something called Psychic Possession. Psychic Possession is 2 and 2 blue for an enchantment aura. It says enchant opponent. Then you skip your draw step. It says whenever enchanted opponent draws a card, you may draw a card.
Interesting.
It's really cool, but also might not work all the time because if your opponent's just drawing 1 card a turn, they're just relying on their top deck, then that's all you're gonna do as well, and you don't draw your card at the beginning of your turn. But you're playing blue, so you probably have more options to draw a bunch of cards.
In theory.
In theory, yes. But when I'm playing against someone playing blue and I enchant them with this, then odds are I'm going to accrue a lot more cards.
Yeah.
Side note, if you pair Notion Thief with this card, Notion Thief is 2 and 2, a black and a blue. With Flash, it's a 3/1, and if an opponent would draw 1 or more cards, you draw that many cards instead. So you enchant them with Psychic Possession and then drop your Notion Thief so that when they were to draw a card, you draw a card and then you draw another card. Is that how this would work?
No, it's because when enchanted opponent draws a card.
Oh. So I guess you might lock yourself out then if you play Notion Thief.
Don't listen.
Never mind. Scrap that.
I like the thought, though.
Yeah, Notion Thief's a great card, just not in this case.
Yeah.
Not in this case.
That's
so
okay.
I played this in my Damia Sage of Stone deck because Damia already has you skip your draw step and then you draw up to 7 at the beginning of your upkeep. So if I'm already skipping my draw step, then that line doesn't matter on this. I just get more cards. So, yeah, Nick, why don't you read our last one?
All right, that's a word. Verity.
I think it's Verity. Yeah.
Verity Circle, we'll call it that. It's 2 and a blue. Enchantment. It says whenever a creature an opponent controls becomes tapped, if it isn't being declared as an attacker, you may draw a card. And then you can pay, is that 4 and a blue to tap target creature without flying.
Cool. So what I like about this card is that it has the card draw on it.
Yeah.
You can tap a creature, obviously it's without flying, but you can tap a creature, pay 5 to draw a card. That's a lot of mana to just draw 1 card. But if you're really in a bind,
a creature.
Yeah,
too.
That's true. That's very true. And then now more than ever, I feel like people are having all of these tap shenanigans, like with Mana Dorks. Tap 2 Mana Dorks and your opponent gets to draw 2 cards.
Yeah.
I think for 2 and a blue, I think you'll end up drawing more cards than you think with this.
Yeah.
I really like this card. It was just recently printed in the Ravnica block, but I just haven't seen it anywhere. I haven't seen anyone play it, and actually,
I've never seen it.
Yeah, I had just learned about this card recently,
Yeah.
so maybe I'll put this in some of my blue decks and
Try it out.
see what it does for me.
Cool.
Be pretty interesting. So, those are our staple replacements. We definitely missed some stuff. We didn't talk about any. Nick's clicking the staple remover. We didn't talk about any like lands really.
Yeah.
No evolving wilds, stuff like that you see all the time. Or any like fetch lands.
Yeah.
Lands are lands. Play more basics than you think because no one really needs all those non-basic lands. Sometimes you run out of basic lands when you go to cultivate or something like that, and you end up hitting yourself. You're like, why did I do that? So just play more basics in your deck. That's one of my philosophies. And it comes into play for our common good.
Cool.
Our common good actually could be a replacement for a commander staple. That staple being exploration. Exploration is 1 green for an enchantment, and it says you may play an additional land on each of your turns. Now, our common is Gaia's Touch. I have the card here, so it's not the oracle text, but basically it says you may put 1 additional land in play during each of your turns, but that land must be a basic forest. Then you can sacrifice Gaia's Touch to add 2 green to your mana pool. So, this is a common. This card's a common that lets you play an additional land on each of your turns. In any mono green deck, I'm going to drop this card in.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I want it? It can sack to replace itself for the mana cost. It's 2 green to cast, and you can sacrifice it for 2 green. So play it. It gives you all this extra mana. You can drop that extra forest, and then you sacrifice it again, and you've gained that mana back.
It's an investment.
Yeah,
Like
you
a
can look at it
savings
that way.
account.
Definitely. Yeah, I know there's a lot of green enchantments that let you drop additional lands. Some of them, like Fast Bond and Mana Bond, actually hurt you because Mana Bond makes you discard your hand after you drop your additional lands, and Fast Bond deals 1 damage to you for each of those additional lands. But Gaia's Touch being a common, I still can't get over that. Being a common, allowing you to play an additional land. It is a basic forest, but I'll take it.
Still.
I'll take it, definitely.
Mono green deck. This would be a pretty sweet card.
I'll probably put it in all of my mono green decks going forward.
How many mono green decks do you have?
1. I just have Grothama. Actually, no. I have bears as well. I have Ayula, Queen Among Bears.
Or what was the enchantment one that flips?
Oh my gosh, yeah. And I have...
what is that?
Wow, now I can't remember. Orochi Ascendant, something like that. That would be a good card in that deck. It might actually be in there. Anyway, put this in all your mono green decks. You'll thank me later. And play more basics. Seriously.
Come on, man.
Cool. Well, I believe that's all we have for you guys today.
Yeah.
Like I said at the beginning, tune in or check out our Instagram account for our giveaway. That ends January 17th. So you'll have some time when this recording gets posted to head on over to our Instagram, the Mana Dorks MTG, and find that giveaway, comment with 2 people that you tag, give us a follow, like the post, and you could win.
And also check out our website, themanadorksmtg.com. And we launched our Patreon page last week, so you can
support us directly.
Support us, sign up for some tiers. There's some cool perks.
If you don't want to support us monetarily or you can't, that's totally fine.
Yeah.
Give us a like on YouTube, subscribe to us on YouTube, check us out on TikTok, we're on there too.
Everywhere.
Also, tell your friends about us. Word of mouth is super important, especially in the Magic community. I know I'm always looking for different content, so tell your friends, tell the people at your local game store that there's a cool new podcast out there.
Yeah, cool.
Cool. Well, we'll catch you guys next time on the Mana Dorks podcast.
Thanks.
See ya.
Just